Technology always trumps politics. Let's look at the history of the world. Technology has always won. Every single battle you look at in the history of the world has been decided by advances in technology. And even if politics and religion and the whims of society may shape or impede the path of technology, in the end, technology that's useful, that makes our lives more convenient, that gives us advantages over others, that pushes us forward. Technology that gives us access to new kinds of novelty, new kinds of creativity, new kinds of ideas, that pushes us forward. And ultimately, we embrace technology that's useful to us, irregardless of the consequences, irregardless of how other people feel. The pioneers who embrace technology, they're the ones who move society forward, and they're the ones that ultimately shape society to its whims. Now, why am I saying this? Well, as of the time of this recording, we've just had a pretty big election that's been watched by the entire world. One that some might say was a vote on the fate of democracy. Certainly that's something I believe. And what's a real shame is, even though, as of recording, it looks like the outcome of this election is truly decided, there are some that wish to cast doubt on the entire election process as a whole. And I find that disturbing and upsetting. But I'm not that surprised. Because people have a lot to lose in this election as much as they have to gain. And I believe some people have lost very dearly. But what could have been avoided was the loss of confidence in the American election system if they had used blockchain. Now, as you know, if you've listened to previous episodes in this series, I'm a big fan of distributed ledger technology. I'm a big fan of the fact that once you commit a decision to that ledger, if it's designed well, it's extremely difficult to corrupt. It's extremely costly to corrupt. It's extremely resource intensive. It's not something that's generally worth trying. But at the same time, we've had an election that's used archaic technology, throwbacks to the past. And unfortunately, the nature of this technology is such that one can question it. One can have doubt instilled in the process. But here we are. We've got this new technology. It's relatively young, only 12 years. If you go back to 2008 as its inception point, Bitcoin and the advances and evolution of distributed ledger technology that occurred as a result of Bitcoin, they've given rise to a new kind of technology that could facilitate a much more transparent form of democracy, one where votes can be done from the comfort of one's own home, instantly and irrefutably and undoubtedly. I believe that pairing biometrics to a distributed ledger technology could be used to create the ideal voting system. And I believe some attempts of this have already been made. I urge you to look for a startup called Unum ID. UNUMID. Their website, unumid.org. Now this is but one example I'm aware of where biometrics have been linked to cryptography secured by a blockchain or a distributed ledger to essentially allow a system whereby one can harmonize their various IDs, driver's license, passports, various other government documents, proofs of identity, link them directly to the individual in an irrefutable way. I believe systems like that, combined with anonymization of voting intent, combined with recording of those intents into a distributed ledger, combined with the innate verification of an ID to a voting event taking place, could provide the means through which future elections could be held in an indisputable, instantaneous manner. There will be no days of waiting for vote tallies to be totaled. There will be no need for you to physically get yourself to a polling office. This is actually quite an egalitarian concept, because it doesn't matter if you're disabled or physically unable to get out of the house or leave for whatever reason, as long as you have the prerequisite tools, a laptop, a fingerprint scanner or some sort of ID reader, and the will to just log in to the relevant service. I don't know what company or what service is going to ultimately be this thing, but I know this solution will emerge. And what I know is that this will potentially allow a lot more people to participate fairly in a voting process. So to me, the future of combining biometric IDs with distributed ledger technology and the anonymization of what a person's intent is key to ensuring freedom of speech, key to ensuring transparency of representation without victimizing individuals themselves. That's what I want you to think about. You don't have to worry about voter intimidation if you can do the vote from the comfort of your own home and if no one knows the manner in which you're voting. All that needs to be established is that you've cast a vote. The system can separate voter intent from the act of voting itself. It can be designed in that way. Distributed ledger tech is already primed to do this. So all I'm waiting for is someone to pull the trigger. And that's why I'm asking you to go to a site like unumid.org today and have a play around with their software. They have a nice little app linked to them called Be Heard, BEHEARD, and that allows you to directly contact representatives in the Houses of Congress. It's already primed to do that. So I encourage you to have a look at that, because it allows you to have a direct voice of representation. You can get through to the people you need to directly in a way that wasn't possible before. I ask you to do that, and I ask you to encourage the adoption and spread of such systems, because I think their future is the future. I think they are important to the future of democracy, to the future of governance. I think they're going to help us avoid a lot of conflicts and a lot of problems that I feel we may see in the coming months that could have been sidestepped if our elected representatives were more progressive from a technological standpoint. And I believe this is an example of a technology that will eventually be adopted that will essentially usurp the existing status quo. Because technology doesn't care who you are or where you're from or what you believe. Technology, it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't work for whatever reason, it gets discarded, it gets forgotten. But if it works and it's useful, it pushes everyone forward for the better.